The death race began with the collapse of the American economy. As a result, crime rates skyrocketed, and many criminals were sent to prisons managed by private businesses. One of the jails is Terminal Island Penitentiary, which is led by Claire Hennessey. In her institution, Hennessey frequently hosted the death race, a horrific tournament in which inmates raced to win. Hennessey did not organize the event without receiving compensation. To make a profit, she broadcast the race over the internet. One afternoon, a masked racer named Frankenstein competed in a race inside the prison. He is accompanied by his female navigator, Case. Case tells him to slow down so that they might dodge the onslaught of guns fired by Joe, their adversary. But Frank declined because they were so close to the finish line. Frank instead throws Case out of the car. Joe then successfully blew up Frank's automobile. The blast killed Frank instantly. Jensen Ames is shown working in a factory while other employees protest the company's extremely low wages. The manufacturer requested assistance from the SWAT squad in order to put an end to the demonstration. When the disturbance began, Jensen was observed rescuing a friend who had fallen during a demonstration. Nevertheless, Jensen was attacked by the SWAT squad, so he fought back. Long story short, Jensen returned home. He is married and has a daughter named Piper, who is 2 months old. However, after having a bath, he discovered his wife had died in the kitchen of his home. When Jensen looked back, a man sprayed stuff on his face, knocking him out. Moments later, Jensen awakens with a knife in his hand. When he looked around, he saw the police had encircled him. Jensen was immediately detained and transported to a police station. During the trial, Jensen was condemned to life in jail, and Piper was placed in an orphanage. 6 months later, Jensen was transferred to the Island Prison Terminal. When he arrived, jail officials took his photo, sprayed him, and led him to a cell that was already occupied by another convict. The prisoner attacked him immediately after prison officials left the cell. When the prison officer returned to check on the situation, he was startled to see Jensen unharmed, whereas his cellmates appeared bruised. The bullying against Jensen has not stopped. During lunch, one inmate unexpectedly spat on Jensen's food. Next, another prisoner, Pachenko, taunted Jensen for murdering his own wife. Fights are unavoidable. Fortunately, when Jensen fainted as a result of the several blows he suffered, jail authorities intervened and escorted him to see Hennessey. It comes out that Hennessey invited Jensen to compete in the death race. She wanted Jensen to pretend to be Frankenstein, also known as Frank, the popular racer who died in the last race. The reward for the triumph will be freedom from prison, assuming he wins 5 races. Frank had won 4 races, thus Jensen only needed to win one to be released from prison. After some thought, Jensen accepted Hennessey's invitation to participate in the event. Hennessey then brought Jensen to a repair business and introduced him to the technicians and Frank's trainer. Jensen was also invited to examine Frank's car, which he would drive in the race later. The coach then led Jensen to the open field to show the other inmates who would be his opponents in the race later. Jensen's opponents include Hector Grimm, also known as the Grim Reaper, Master, who is undergoing mental health therapy, 14K, the 10th generation of the Mafia, Pachenko, who killed 9 people in the race, and Travis Colt, the star of Death Race. Meanwhile, Frank's killer, Joe, approaches Jensen and his coach. He threatens to kill Frank at the next race. Joe mistakenly assumed Frank was now undergoing treatment at the hospital, while in fact Frank had died during the previous race. When game time approached, Jensen strolled through the prison cell's halls while wearing Frank's mask and clothing. The inmates behind the prison cell yelled Frank's name because they believed the racing icon had returned. Before the race begins, Jensen is introduced to his navigator, Case. The race began. When the countdown ended, the automobiles began to accelerate. Jensen was still adjusting to the car he was driving. However, Case and the coach directed Jensen such that he rapidly became accustomed to it. Joe attacks Jensen's car repeatedly in the midst of the race, intending to murder Frank. In this race, each driver will receive 3 features. The first 2 elements are defense and assault, which can be activated if the racer passes a shining image of a shield and sword emblem. While the final component, represented by a skull image, serves as a mine. If a racer passes it, the second racer to hit it will die. With the purpose they have, once Hennessey activates the feature in the race arena, the racers compete to kill each other using the 3 features. In the middle of the race, a racer is seen crossing the skull feature, which has been turned on. Shortly later, an iron machine came from beneath the racing arena and struck the racer. The automobile detonated quickly. Oddly, some of the things Jensen should have received did not work on his vehicle. However, using his precise techniques, he was able to kill one of his opponents who had been hitting him. Jensen then continues the race alongside the remaining competitors. Jensen glanced to the side of his car as he drove down the racetrack, where Pachenko was also going at the same speed. Pachenko offered him a hand motion. Jensen recognized the gesture. It was the hand gesture of the murderer of his wife. Jensen was taken by surprise when he saw Pachenko's hand movement. Joe did not squander the occasion. He instantly rammed Jensen's car from the side, causing Jensen to drive to a repair shop on the racetrack's boundary. The race is broken into 3 stages. To win the match, a racer simply needs to finish the first and second stages. However, in the third stage, a racer must finish first to win. When the experts examined Jensen's vehicle, they checked all of Frank's features and discovered that they functioned properly. The technicians soon discovered that Hennessey has modified Case. Jensen then went to Hennessey's office and expressed his unwillingness to compete in the upcoming race. Jensen said that he now knew who had caused his wife's death. Hennessey ordered Pachenko to murder his wife so that Jensen might be imprisoned. Hennessey ultimately gives Jensen a photo of his young girl and threatens to kill her if he does not participate in the race. Jensen was compelled to watch the race again. Jensen was servicing his automobile when he noticed Pachenko pass by the garage. He followed Pachenko into another room, which turned out to be a trap. Pachenko and his crew tortured Jensen after tying him around the neck. Just as Pachenko was ready to kill Jensen, one of Frank's technicians fired a stun pistol into his body, knocking him out. When Jensen saw this, he instantly turned and attacked Pachenko's soldiers. Unfortunately, jail authorities hurried over and used a stun gun on Jensen's body. Jensen tumbled to the ground. It was time for the second stage of the event. Jensen behaves suspiciously towards Case. He inquires whether Case was engaged in Frank's prior death. Case first refuses to admit it, but when Jensen threatens to murder her, she reveals to Jensen that she had been threatened by Hennessey, who instructed her to damage her previous race with Frank and to do the same to Jensen. Hearing this, Jensen recognized Case's position and resumed the race. He accelerated his vehicle and attacked Joe in Pachenko's car. In the intense race, Jensen overtook Pachenko's car and received the sword image feature. Jensen then maneuvered his vehicle to face Pachenko's car. He fired repeatedly at Pachenko's automobile, causing him to lose control and crash into a wall. After defeating Pachenko, Jensen stopped his car, got out, and approached Pachenko's vehicle. He dragged Pachenko out of the car in front of the CCTV cameras so Hennessey could watch. Then he shattered Pachenko's neck, killing him immediately. Hennessey was outraged by Jensen's actions and instantly ordered her men to take out the Dreadnought, her favorite customized tanker truck, and kill all of the participants. The advent of the Dreadnought caused the other racers to worry. The racers were blasted one by one with continuous gunfire until their car exploded. This Dreadnought not only fired bullets, but it also used rotating drills to pierce the cabins of the racer cars it passed. The drill cannon instantaneously murdered both the racers and their navigators. The cruelty does not appear to end there. Even one competitor was shot at close range with a cannon, causing the car to explode. The Dreadnought had killed nearly everyone in the race, leaving only Jensen and Joe. The severity of the Dreadnought onslaught overwhelmed Joe. In the midst of the arena, Jensen took the initiative to call Joe using his car's communication equipment. Jensen encourages Joe to take over the Dreadnought and pass the skull picture together. Joe agreed to the proposition, and their car contacted the skull picture at the same time. Not long after, the Dreadnought passed an image of the same skull, causing an iron bar to emerge from beneath the racing arena. The Dreadnought splintered and capsized in an instant when it collided with the iron bar. The second stage of the match ended with the destruction of the Dreadnought. Hennessey, who became concerned about Jensen's triumph, directed one of her men, a prison guard, to plant a bomb under Jensen's automobile. When Hennessey delivered a speech in front of the convicts at the prison officer promptly carried out the commands. Some time later, Jensen's coach showed him a DVD of the race. He showed that the location just behind the can wall was the exit from the prison. Jensen intends to begin his escape. He approached Joe and told him about a shortcut that would get them out of prison. The day before the race, Hennessey went to Jensen's jail and submitted his release letter in case he won the match. However, it was all a farce because Hennessey was aware that Jensen would die during the race. The final stage of the death race, with only 2 racers, Jensen and Joe, has begun. When Case got into the automobile, she saw several noticeable differences. Jensen revealed that his car had been changed. Case insists that she will assist Jensen win the contest. She would no longer obey Hennessey's commands. The race begins at night, with lights flashing along the track. Jensen and Joe drove their cars within the course. During the final race, Hennessey will enable the function for Joe, but not for Jensen, allowing Joe to easily shoot and assault Jensen's car. Then Joe continued shooting at Jensen's automobile. Unexpectedly, once Hennessey engaged the rocket feature, Joe aimed the rocket at the racetrack's fence rather than Jensen. The fence was instantly broken, making it easier for their car to get through. When Hennessey saw her prisoner escape, she instantly ordered her men to arrest Jensen and Joe. Then she grabbed the explosive trigger device and pressed the button. However, the bomb did not work. Jensen's trainers and technicians discovered the explosives that had been put in his automobile. They then removed and defused the explosive. Hennessey quickly deployed helicopters and troops to apprehend Jensen. As he crossed the bridge, Jensen became swamped by the police officers who were preparing to capture him. Case also offers to pretend to be Frank and drive the car, allowing Jensen to get out and run. Case, using Frank's disguise, begins driving the car as Jensen flees. Jensen then met Joe and sprinted after the passing train. Frank's rearrest by the police garnered Hennessey a lot of accolades and awards. The audience, however, was unaware that the person apprehended by the police was Case in disguise. Hennessey didn't know either. She is currently busy opening gift boxes in her office. To her surprise, the box contained the explosive she had ordered to be placed in Jensen's car. The bomb's light instantly turned green. The device exploded, killing both Hennessey and her crew. The bomber is revealed to be the coach, who harbors resentment at Hennessey's awful behavior. 6 months after escaping from prison, Jensen and Joe open an auto repair shop in the Miami region. One afternoon, they noticed a car approaching their workshop at tremendous speed. It turns out that the driver is Case, who has been released from prison. Long story short, they eventually live happily. The moral of the story is about a blessing in disguise. Bad luck must sometimes be viewed from a different perspective, in order for us to derive meaning and learning from it.